You're walking through an RV lot, and everything looks perfect. Big open living space, fancy appliances, sleek touchscreens, stuff that makes you think, okay, this one feels premium. But some of the most impressive features are also the ones that can turn into constant little problems once you're actually using the rig in real weather, real campsites, and real travel days. So let's go through 7 RV features that look amazing at first, until you own them. Number 1, slide outs. Slide outs look like the ultimate upgrade because they instantly turn a narrow box into something that feels like a real living room. The first time you step into a rig with a big slide, it's hard not to be impressed. More floor space, wider walkways, bigger sofas, even space for a kitchen island. The catch is that a slide out is basically a moving wall, and anything that moves on an RV will eventually need attention. The most common owning it problems are alignment, ceiling, and the extra stress you're putting on the structure. Slides add weight high and wide, and that eats into cargo carrying capacity. So you get the big open feel, but you may have less legal, safe payload for water, tools, outdoor gear, and all the stuff that quietly adds up. Then there's maintenance. The seals around a slide are doing a lot of work, and they're constantly exposed to sun, dirt, and weather. If those seals dry out, tear, or get misaligned, water can creep in. And RV water damage is the kind of problem that goes from minor to expensive fast. Another thing new owners don't expect is how often a slide affects daily use. Some floor plans are basically unusable with slides pulled in, meaning a quick roadside lunch stop turns into, we can't reach the fridge or bathroom unless we extend something. Campsite selection becomes more complicated too, because you need side clearance, you need the rig reasonably level, and you need room for the slide to come out without hitting a post, a tree, or the pedestal. Mechanism type matters as well. Some slide systems are better at handling heavier rooms. Others are more sensitive to uneven loads or poor alignment. If you're shopping, don't just run the slide once and call it good. Look closely at the floor around the slide for soft spots, staining, or warping. Watch the slide move and listen for grinding, popping, or uneven travel. Check the top and corners of the opening for signs of past leaks. Also, ask yourself a simple question. Do you want one slide that opens up the space, or do you want multiple slides that turn setup and upkeep into a routine? Slides aren't bad, but the ownership experience is way better when you treat them like a system you'll inspect regularly, not a magic button you'll never think about again. And that idea of, this looks luxury, but it changes your whole routine, shows up again with the next feature. Number 2, residential fridge. A residential-style refrigerator is one of those showroom upgrades that instantly makes an RV feel like home. Bigger shelves, more freezer room, better organization, and it looks modern. The ownership reality mostly comes down to power. A true residential fridge is typically designed to run on household electricity, which means your RV has to provide stable AC power through shore power, a generator, or an inverter drawing from batteries. If you mostly stay in campgrounds with hookups, you may barely notice the downside. But the moment you do long travel days, overnight at a rest stop, or camp without full hookups, the math changes. A fridge that runs through an inverter can quietly become one of your biggest daily power loads. It's not just, does it run? It's, how long can it run before my battery bank is low? And, how fast can I recharge those batteries? This is where a lot of people feel surprised after purchase, because the salesman pitch often skips the boring part. Battery capacity, inverter size, alternator charging, solar output, and how all of that fits your camping style. There are also practical travel issues. Residential fridges are heavier, and that adds to overall weight. Doors can swing open if latches are weak, and spilled food in a moving RV is not a fun cleanup. Ventilation matters too. RVs are tighter spaces, and a fridge needs airflow behind it to run efficiently. When airflow is poor, the fridge runs hotter, cycles more, and draws more power, especially in summer. Now, it's not all downside. Many newer RVs are moving toward compressor fridges, including 12-volt models designed for RV use, and those can be more efficient and cool better than older styles in hot weather. But you still want to know what you're buying. Is it a 120-volt residential unit that depends heavily on an inverter, or a 12-volt compressor fridge designed to live off the battery system? If you're shopping, ask to see the battery setup on that exact unit, not a different one on the lot. Ask what size inverter it has, and whether it can handle the fridge's startup surge comfortably. Ask how the rig charges batteries while driving, because it charges can mean very different things depending on the system. A residential fridge can be a great feature, but only when the electrical system is built for it, and once you start paying attention to systems, it's hard not to notice the next sounds perfect upgrade that's really all about conditions and setup. Number 3, tankless water heater. Tankless water heaters sell the dream: endless hot water. That's a powerful phrase, especially if you've ever done the classic RV shower routine, where you try to finish before the hot water runs out. But tankless in an RV is less like a luxury spa and more like a tool that works well when the conditions are right. The big difference is that a tank-style heater stores hot water, while a tankless heater makes hot water on demand by firing up when it senses flow. That sounds simple, but it means flow rate and water pressure matter a lot. If your campground water pressure is low, if your pump is struggling, or if you're trying to use a very low-flow trickle, the heater may not behave the way you expect. Some people get temperature swings, especially when they change the faucet position, when someone else uses water, or when the system is trying to balance flow and heat output. Another common surprise is how tankless interacts with stop-start shower habits. In an RV, people often turn water off while soaping up to save water. With tankless, that can trigger a cycle where you get a burst of hot, then a cooler moment when it restarts, and the experience feels less stable than a tank that already has hot water sitting there. Maintenance is also different. Tankless units can be more sensitive to mineral buildup, meaning hard water can reduce performance over time if you're not paying attention. Winterizing can be more specific too, because you're dealing with a device that has internal pathways that need to be protected from freezing. And then there's the part nobody likes to hear. Endless hot water doesn't mean endless resources. You still have limited fresh water and limited gray tank space, and the heater is usually running on propane or electricity, sometimes both. So it can burn through propane faster if you're taking long showers back to back. Altitude can be another factor. Some combustion appliances don't perform the same way at higher elevations, and while many modern systems handle this better than older ones, it's still worth knowing where you camp most. If you love long showers and you usually have hookups, tankless can feel like a real win. If you boondock a lot and you treat water like gold, the endless part matters less, and stability matters more. A smart way to think about it is this: tankless shifts the problem from limited hot water storage to how consistent is my flow, pressure, and fuel. Once you see that pattern, features that depend heavily on perfect conditions, the next one makes even more sense. Number 4, auto-leveling jacks. Auto-leveling looks like the definition of modern RV convenience. You pull into a site, press a button, and the rig levels itself while you stand there. No guessing, no crawling around, no stacking blocks for half an hour. When it works well, it's amazing. When it doesn't, it's one of the fastest ways to turn a relaxed arrival into frustration. The biggest ownership issue is that leveling systems are powerful mechanical equipment living under a vehicle that gets blasted by water, road salt, dirt, and vibration. Over time, things can loosen, sensors can drift, hydraulic lines can seep, and electrical connections can corrode. And because the system is integrated, one weak point can cause odd behavior that's hard to diagnose without the right knowledge or service support. Another surprise is how dependent auto-leveling can be on battery voltage. If your batteries are low, the system may move slowly, throw errors, or not complete a cycle. That can happen at the exact moment you want the system most, after a long travel day. There's also a soft ground reality. Auto-leveling can only work with the surface you give it. If you're on soft soil, hot asphalt, sand, or uneven gravel, the jacks can sink or shift, and now your perfectly level rig isn't level anymore. That's why many owners end up carrying pads anyway, which is fine, but it's a good example of how a push-button feature doesn't remove the need for basic setup awareness. Another detail: not every system is truly a leveling system. Some rigs have electric stabilizers that reduce movement but aren't meant to lift and level the RV. People confuse the two, and that confusion can lead to misuse and extra wear. With full auto leveling, you also want to know what the manual backup looks like. If a control module fails, or a jack won't retract, what's the process? Owners who feel good about auto leveling long-term usually have two things: a system that's appropriately sized for the rig, and a basic understanding of how it works so they're not helpless when something goes wrong. If you're shopping, watch an auto level cycle from start to finish. Listen for strain. Look for uneven extension. Ask where the manual override is and whether the dealer can show it, not just talk about it. Auto leveling is one of those features you can love for years, but it's still a system, and systems tend to remind you they exist the first time you're tired, it's raining, and you just want everything to work, which connects perfectly to the next feature people love right up until the weather changes. Number 5, power awning. A big power awning with built-in LED lighting looks like pure comfort. Shade on demand, a nicer outdoor space, and an evening vibe that feels upgraded without trying. The downside is that an awning is basically a big sail, and RVs travel through real weather, not showroom weather. Power awnings are especially convenient, but that convenience can make people a little too casual. With manual awnings, you're more involved, so you tend to pay attention. With power, it's easy to extend it, enjoy it, and forget it's out until the wind reminds you. Wind damage is one of the most common, most expensive surprises because arms can bend, mounts can rip, and fabric can tear in seconds if gusts hit at the wrong angle. Even moderate wind can cause constant flapping that wears out fabric and hardware over time. Another annoyance is water pooling. If rain collects on the awning and you don't have the right pitch, it can sag and stress the fabric and arms. Some awnings can be adjusted for slope. Some have features that let one side drop, but owners often don't learn this until after they notice sagging or stretch marks. Repair is rarely cheap, and waiting on parts can be a real thing depending on the brand and season. Another ownership detail is noise. Some awnings rattle when it's breezy, and that can drive you crazy at night if your bedroom is near the awning mount. LEDs sound great, but wiring that lives outside can be exposed to moisture, and connectors aren't always sealed as well as you'd hope. And then there's the auto features that can cause mixed feelings. Some awnings have wind sensors designed to retract the awning, which sounds like a lifesaver, but sensors can misread, retract unexpectedly, or fail to retract when you really need them. The result is that many experienced owners treat an awning like something you supervise, not something you set and forget. If you're shopping, extend the awning fully and look at how steady it is. Check the fabric edges, seams, and the way it rolls in. Make sure you know the manual method to retract it if power fails. Ask how the awning is mounted and whether reinforcement is used, because the mounting points take real loads. Power awnings are still worth having for a lot of people, but the ownership mindset is simple. Enjoy it, but respect it. And once you start thinking in terms of, this feature lives outside and takes a beating, it's easier to understand why the next feature can look amazing on a brochure and feel underwhelming in real use. Number 6, outdoor kitchen. Outdoor kitchens photograph really well. A little fridge, a swing-out cooktop, a sink, maybe a mini counter and some storage. It sells a lifestyle. Cooking outside, keeping smells out of the RV, and using the campsite like a patio. The reality is that a lot of outdoor kitchens end up being used less than people expect, and the main reason is simple. They take up valuable space in the RV's storage bays and wall cavities. That space has to come from somewhere, and often it comes from pass-through storage you would otherwise use for chairs, hoses, tools, leveling blocks, and all the unglamorous gear every RV needs. Another issue is that outdoor kitchen components are often lighter duty than people assume. The mini fridge might only run on certain power sources. Sometimes it's not very effective in high heat, and it can struggle to stay cold if it's not well ventilated. The sink can look practical, but if it ties into your fresh and gray systems, it adds one more faucet, one more drain, and one more place that needs winterizing and leak checks. And because it's outside, it deals with dust, bugs, and moisture. Even with covers, things get dirty faster outside. A cooktop or grill that lives in an exterior compartment can also collect grime and road dust, which means you're cleaning it before you cook more often than you'd like. Security is another small but real point. Outdoor compartments are easier to access, and not every latch is high quality. Then there's the way people actually camp. If it's hot, cold, raining, or windy, you may not want to cook outside, and the outdoor kitchen becomes dead weight on those trips. A lot of owners discover they prefer a simple portable setup instead, something they can place where they want, clean easily, and store without dedicating a whole section of the RV to it. That doesn't mean outdoor kitchens are pointless. They can be great for people who truly cook outside most of the time, especially if the layout gives you real counter space and storage that stays clean and dry. The key is being honest about how you'll use it. If you've never cooked outdoors while camping before, an outdoor kitchen won't magically make you start. If you already do, then having built-in access to propane and a dedicated area can feel smooth and convenient. When you view it as a trade, outdoor convenience versus storage and upkeep, it's much easier to judge. And if there's one feature that screams modern RV, even more than an outdoor kitchen, it's the tech-heavy control systems that look sleek on day 1 and can feel like a headache on day 300. Number 7. Touchscreen controls. A big touchscreen control panel and app-based RV controls look premium. Lights, water pump, tanks, battery status, climate control, slides, awnings, everything in one place. In the lot, it feels like you're buying a smarter RV. The ownership downside is that you're also buying complexity, and sometimes a single point of failure. Traditional RV systems are messy, but they're usually simple: switches, fuses, and direct wiring. When you move to a multiplex or networked system, a lot of functions run through control modules and software. That can be great for reducing wiring and adding features, but if something glitches, the fix isn't always obvious. A frozen screen, a buggy sensor reading, or a failed module can take down multiple functions at once. Even when there's a manual backup, you might have to hunt for it, and it may not control every feature the way you expect. Another issue is parts and service. With standard switches, you can often replace a part quickly with common components. With proprietary control systems, you may need a specific module from a specific supplier, and availability can become a real factor, especially during peak season. Software updates can be a mixed bag too. Updates can improve stability, but they can also introduce new quirks, and not every RV owner wants to troubleshoot software on a campground weekend. Then there's the accuracy problem. Tank sensors and battery monitors can already be imperfect in RVs. When those readings are presented as clean numbers on a fancy screen, people expect them to be precise, and they're often not. That mismatch, high-tech look, low-tech reality, can be frustrating. Connectivity features add another layer. Some systems rely on Bluetooth, some rely on Wi-Fi, some rely on cellular add-ons, and campground internet is famous for being inconsistent. If you can control basic functions only through an app that sometimes won't connect, the feature stops feeling like convenience and starts feeling like something you babysit. If you're shopping, the best question is not, does it have a touchscreen? But what happens if the touchscreen fails? Are there physical switches for lights and pumps? Is there a straightforward fuse and breaker layout? Can you operate slides and awnings without the main panel if needed? Ask the dealer to show you, not just tell you. Also, ask whether you can access wiring diagrams and system documentation, because the best ownership experience with smart systems comes when you can actually understand what's installed in your rig. Tech controls can be genuinely nice when they're well designed and backed up with manual options, but when everything routes through one digital brain, it stops feeling like a luxury the first time the brain has a bad day.